begins, I am going to, we are so delighted that you are here. I'll say a little bit more when the man in question is in the room. But just to say, we're going to begin in a moment. We begin with the prayer that we offer every time we come into a synagogue, which, if you've got the same editions of this prayer book as I have, it's page 3. And the prayer is called Ma Tovu in English and Hebrew, either side of the page. So I am going to go and get Jonah now, where we are going to process in to this song, and more will be explained in a moment for having reached this this great celebration in the family's life. I know for some of you it is the first bar mitzvah, actually maybe the first time in synagogue, so I really will explain everything we're doing all the way through. But as soon as you see hear our musicians start up, you will know that it would be great to stand up if you're able, and Jonah, our bar mitzvah, will be coming in. So I will now go and pick him up, and we will be coming into the congregation together. down. So in Jewish tradition, we have this coming of age ceremony, a bar mitzvah. When we say coming of age, Jonah is not going to be driving home and leaving school on Monday morning, but he is going to come of age in our Jewish community by leading the service, by chanting from the Torah. You'll hear in a moment. It has been a long-awaited bar mitzvah because of the pandemic, much delayed, which makes this moment all the more poignant and special for us. And who better to help Jonah mark that moment than his mother, and to capture the mood of coming of age and next challenges. Danielle, I'm going to invite you to come up to my reading desk.
Ma netiya zo para v'rava, af divrei Torah parin v'ravin. As plants are fruitful and multiply, so the words of Torah are fruitful and multiply. Jonah, may your eyes sparkle with the light of Torah. May your ears hear the music of its words. May the space between each letter of the scrolls bring warmth and comfort to your soul. May the syllables draw holiness from your heart, and may its holiness be gentle and soothing to you and all God's creatures. So, Jonah, being your parents has been our greatest adventure. And now you are an adult, it's time for your own adventures, but within reason, because you are still only 13, after all. So, here's a little story about life's endless adventures and possibilities. Congratulations! Today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know. And you are the guy who'll decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look 'em over with care. About some you'll say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. Oh, the places you'll go. There is fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame! You'll be famous as famous can be, with the whole wide world watching you on TV. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too, games you can't win, because you'll play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not, alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much you won't want to go on. But on you will go, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. So, be your name Buxbaum or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Ali Van Allen O'Shea, you're off to great places. Today is your day.
Beautiful, Danielle. This is the synagogue where Dr. Zeus, alongside our prayer books, are very comfortable. We're at the top of page 5 as Dean offers the song Eloheinu Shama. And at the foot of the page, Psalm 96, let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult.
Yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my my my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my my my. ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ גם הים מלוא ישמחו השמיים ותגל Yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my, yama my 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 my,
On the top of page 6, so we are transporting, this is the first time in our congregation, so Jonah, it's like a double new moment for us to have an afternoon bar mitzvah, and you have brought us a great opportunity to do it, that and obviously the rest of the world. So we're at the top of page 6, we're offering some of our traditional songs of praise before Jonah leads us in his bar mitzvah prayers. So, Anim Zemirot V'Shirim E'erog.
Anim Zemirot V'Shirim E'erog, Ki Elecha Nafshi Tarog, Nafshi Chimda B'Tzel Yadecha Natat Korah Zodecha. Dabri b'chvodecha, homer libi el dodecha, yerav nasichi alecha, ki nafshi tarog elecha.
So let's stand together. Those who can join us, those who can't stay seated. We remain a congregation. Those of us here in the synagogue, and I believe there are probably family and friends at home coming in and streaming in, eager to hear Jonah, which we will in a moment. Page 6.
Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בשירי זמרה.
Page 8, we've welcomed each other, we've welcomed Jonah, and now we prepare. This is the public call to prayer. Baruch Hu.
La la la.
Now Jonah leads us in our watchword of praise, the Shema. We're on page 10.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchut Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ולכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please be seated. True and beautiful and good, sound, established and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, eternal one, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You have redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you this song.
Mi kamocha va'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef peleh.
שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים לשמחה על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צו ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Please stand.
Adonai. Ananana svatai tiftan. Ananana ufi agid. Ufi agid tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'emotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim ve'Koneh Hakol, ve'Zocher Hastei Avot ve'Imachot, Umevi Gola Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Mele Ozer Umoshia Umagen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim, Atah Rav le'Choshia. Mashiv Haruach u'morid haGeshem, Mazriach haShemesh u'morid haTal.
Mechalkel Chaim b'chesed, Mechayei Meitim b'rachamim rabim, Somek noflim v'rofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umakayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umi domeh lach. Melech memit umachayei, umatzmiach Yeshua.
Ve'ne'eman Atah lehachayot metim, Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayei hametim. Please be seated.
No, just we're on page 13 if you're following. We're in the middle of the central prayer that we're very proud of our bar mitzvah young people, that they learn to lead really the whole service. And Jonah's in the middle of this very long prayer on page 13. We're at the top of 13.
Nakadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kashem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, kakatuf al yad. Neviecha.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech ol haaretz kevodo.
Kevodo mele olam.
Baruch kevod Adonai mimkoro.
Mimkomcha malkeinu, tofia vetimloch aleinu, ki mechakim anachnu la.
Loch Adonai leolam, Elohai Zion, Tovador, Alleluia. Tovador, nagid God lecha, Ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nakdish, ledovador, ledovador, nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nakdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, ki el melech gadol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ledovador, nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש.
Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated.
So we've realized that there are some different editions of this Bar Mitzvah Siddur, which, so I can see that for some of us we're on page 16 and some of us 14. So forgive me if you've been spending your whole time chasing us, wondering where Jonah and I are. But we're now going into Mark Shabbat. We always mark our Bar Mitzvah on Shabbat, and here we are with a beautiful song for Shabbat.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. מקדשי שבי שבת, כולם יספו ויתענגו מטובך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת. חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי עונג שבת.
We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Retzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam be'ahava tekabel, utehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha be'yirah na'avod. Modim anachnu la, she'atah hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, le'olam va'ed. Sur hayenu magen yishenu, atahu ledovado. Nodeh lecha unesaper tehilatecha. Al hayenu hamesurim beyadecha. Ve'al nishmotenu hapekudot lach. Ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu. Ve'al nifleotecha vetovotecha shebechol et erev vavoke vetzochorayim. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lechodot.
Shalom, Tova, Uvracha, Sim Shalom, Tova, Uvracha, Sim Shalom. shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed b'rachamim. Chen v'chesed b'rachamim. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha.
Please take a moment for silent prayer.
Elohai netzol lashoni meira ושפתיי מדבר ממעל ולמקל עלי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפל הכל תהיה אלוהי 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 נצור לשוני מרע ושפתיי מדבר ממעל ולמקל עלי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפל הכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי פתח ליבי פתח ליבי פתח ליבי בתורתך אלוהי נצור לשוני מרע ושפתיי מדבר ממעל ולמקל עלי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפל הכל תהיה אלוהי 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 leratzon irefi be'egon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri ve'goali Adonai tzuri ve'goali leratzon irefi ve'egon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri ve'goali Adonai tzuri ve'goali Use shalom bimromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Use shalom bimromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We're getting better and better at a way to join in without singing. That was wonderful. So we go now to the main attraction, as we say in our synagogue Shabbat services, especially when there is a bar mitzvah, which is the reading of the Torah. We are on page 20 in my book. I hope that helps you, but it should say the reading of the Torah at the top of the page. We're going to go straight into singing. Not yet, Jonah. We're going to go straight in. I mean, it's really good. He's so enthusiastic, right? We're going to sing Ki Mitzion at the top of the page while I ask our two ark openers, who I can spot you because you're both wearing a talit, to come up and open the ark as we take out the Torah.
U'devar Adonai b'Yerushalayim.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu l'Adonai iti onoramama shamo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagvura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod kikol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh lechol lerosh.
So while the Torah is being undressed, I'm reminded of a lovely story of a rabbi in the States who apparently said to a woman, you need to undress now. And she started to take off her coat and what she was wearing, and which was the height of not enabling people to know what's expected in the congregation. But we undress the Torah scroll. You can leave the binder on, leave it on, and if you just bring it to the desk. Wonderful. Thank you so much. To enable everyone in the congregation to know exactly what's expected. So I would say that in our congregation and in all parts of Judaism, useful for all of you who for this is a first bar mitzvah, is that there are 3 things we say, and we've been saying this for the last over 2,000 years, that Judaism is about 3 pillars, standing on 3 pillars. One is Torah, and here is the scroll of Torah, that we really do, even as liberal Jews, live our lives around learning. Jonah's going to speak about this. Second is avodah, worship, and how we do gather together in prayer, and we want our young people to learn to do that. And the last is gimilut chasadim, which is kind deeds, and we also have a kind deed. Kind deeds, where we feel compelled to make the world a better place. And I feel incredibly proud of our Jonah today, because you're going to hear from him that he really understands that that is what his Judaism means for him, and he's going to speak about that, as now I get to call him up to being bar mitzvah and reading Torah this morning. Ya'amod haba mitzvah Jonah ben Daniela v'Mikael likrat haTorah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for joining me today, either at FPS or at home via Zoom. I really appreciate you supporting me on the day of my bar mitzvah. It's especially meaningful for me to have my dad's family here, as this will be the first ever Rock's family bar mitzvah, and I really hope it's an enjoyable one. My portion is from Parashat Bo, which is from the book of Exodus. You may not be expecting the story of Pharaoh and the plagues on a summer's day, when we usually read this story in the dead of winter, but I will take you back to the scroll of Exodus and the last horrific plague of death of the firstborn, when Pharaoh, at last, said yes that the Hebrews could go. As it's quite a famous story in Jewish tradition, you may have heard it around your Passover table during Seder, and I will now guide you through it again. Thanks to the pandemic, there have been some major changes to my bar mitzvah. For starters, many of you are here on Zoom, and secondly, we are reading from the book of Exodus today, but I don't need to ramble on and on about the virus, as that's probably all you've been hearing in the last year. My portion opens as Pharaoh has let the Israelites free from Egypt. He was stubborn throughout, saying yes 1 minute and then changing his mind all the way through the 10 plagues. The last one was especially cruel, and some would say overly cruel. And only when Pharaoh lost one of his own did he stop and let the Hebrews go. Was this displaying a selfishness in Pharaoh? Personally, I think this was very selfish from Pharaoh. It also shows us something about human nature. Often, we can never really experience true pain or feel empathy for others unless it's happening directly to us. For example, you may see something on the news of a young person who has passed away, and for a split second you would think, oh, that's sad, and then continue with your day. But how would the family feel? How would it affect them? My Tzedakah project speaks to the power of empathy and loss of young lives, but I will talk about that later. A very important question that links to the portion is whether God was right to summon the last plague, and my answer to that is, to be quite honest, I don't know. It could be argued that God was right. In the face of cruelty, God responded. We can link it to a famous question that many philosophers have struggled over. Is it morally correct to kill one group of people to save a much larger group of people? In Judaism and other religions, you are allowed to break any law in the Torah if it is to save one life. This is called pikuach nefesh. So God's decision could be justified in this sense. However, it still feels immoral to punish others for their leaders' poor actions, even if it was to save more lives. In my portion, it says, "You shall tell your child on that day, it is because of what the Eternal did for me when I came out of Egypt." This sentence is quite important to me, as it relates to my bar mitzvah and indeed one of the reasons I wanted to do it. That is, to keep my Jewish religion alive and pass it down to my children so they can pass it down to their children, and so on and so forth. We as Jews have had some pretty tough times over history, being pushed out of many places we've tried to settle in. So I believe it is very important to celebrate the liberation of our ancestors and therefore keep our traditions alive like I'm doing today in my synagogue, reading from our Torah and having my family and friends with me. I'm very lucky to be able to read directly from one of our Czech scrolls, which is so precious in the FPS community. This scroll is over one of 1,500 taken by the Nazis from synagogues all over Czechoslovakia in the Second World War. They were rescued and restored and then distributed throughout the world. This story of survival also has a strong relation to tradition, a big theme in my parasha. We are often asked why a bar mitzvah is important to us. I see my grandmother as part of this, telling children of their Jewish tradition and inheritance. She would always say to my mum, "Please God, I get to see Jonah's bar mitzvah." And now we're here. So Mama, very pleased you got to see me. Having my bar mitzvah is for me celebrating my independence and becoming a Jewish man. And it is also a way for me to become closer to the Jewish community, which opens up many new experiences and to understand my faith more and more, and connecting with friends and classmates, and my teachers have been a part of that. I would like to thank my amazing teacher John for everything he has done for me. He has taught me and others so well and worked so hard, and I would like to thank him for his dedication. I'll always remember our chats on Zoom before we got to work, talking about football and tennis, and how you always bring us biscuits at Ivrea. So thank you, John. I'd also like to thank Rabbi Rebecca for her support on this journey, and Dean and Franklin for all the lovely music, which is a part of the character at FPS, which I really like. And thank you, Josie, for everything you do, including managing to put a little Arsenal logo on my Torah leaflet. I really like that bit. Coming of age in our synagogue means choosing a project we believe in and want to support. I chose my Tzedakah project to be raising money for the Cayenne Prince Foundation, which helps young people off the street and into something positive instead. This is such valuable and important work due to the amount of people that get sucked into gang culture and a life of violence. Cayenne was a young boy who had everything to live for, playing for Queen's Park Rangers, who was stabbed whilst trying to break up a knife fight between two kids. In the midst of his grief, Cayenne's father started a charity, helping kids to find worthwhile passions like boxing and other sports. I wanted to support this charity because our kids are the future and we must support them to fulfill their potential. It also links to my parasha about making sure your children are safe and informing them of the dangers in the wider world. I am very lucky to be close to my parents. They have always taken me to interesting places and been very supportive of me, which is something I'm now very grateful for, as it has developed me into the person I am today. They have helped me massively with my bar mitzvah, even my dad who isn't Jewish, and I owe them a lot. As an only child, I've had quite a special bond with both of them, which I really like, as I'm able to make jokes without them getting offended and have them as my friends and not just my parents. So thank you, Mum and Dad, for everything you have done for me. That's it.
Yeshakoa, absolutely beautiful.
Let's find the locations first. Where is it?
Wait.
No, that's not it. What's happened here?
We just need to be sure we're in the right place of the Torah that Jonah is reading from.
It's here.
There.
Where? Zechor. No.
Where does it start?
No, here.
It's not down here.
Just a minute.
I know it's this bit. Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
זכור את היום הזה.
Yeah?
אשר יצאתם.
Yeah, Vayom Moshe.
יום אשר-
That one.
Yeah?
So put the yad.
You got the blessings ready?
Yeah. Okay.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Now hold this with your left hand. And only when you're ready, start.
ויאמר משה אל העם, זכור את היום הזה אשר יצאתם ממצרים מבית עבדים, כי בחוזק יד הוציא אדוני אתכם מזה, ולא יאכל המץ. היום אתם יוצאים,
Yes?
היום אתם יוצאים בחודש אביב, והיה כי יביאך אדוני אל ארץ הכנעני, והחיתי והאמורי, וההיבי והיבוסי, אשר נשבע לאבותיך לתת לך ארץ זבת חלב ודבש, ועבדת את חבותך הזאת בחודש הזה. 7 ימים תאכל מצות, וביום השביעי הגל אדוני מצות יאכל את 7 הימים, ולא יאה לך המץ, ולא יאה לך שאור בכל גבולך, והגדת לבך ביום חכו לאמור, בעבור זה עשה אדוני לי בצאתי ממצרים, והיה לך לחות על ידך ולזיכרון בין עיניך, למען תחיה תורת אדוני בפיך, כי ביד חזקה הוציאך אדוני ממצרים, ושמעת את החוקה הזאת למודה מימים ימימה, והיה כי יביאך אדוני אל ארץ הכנעני, כאשר נשבע לך ולאבותיך, ותנח לה, ועברת כל פטר רחם לאדוני, וכל פטר שגר בחמא, אשר יחיה לך כזכרים לאדוני, וכל פטר רמות תפתה בשה, ואם לא תפתה ברבתול, וכל בכל הטעם בבניך תפתה, והיה כי ישך בנך עמך לאמור מצות, ואמרת אליו בחוזק יד, הוציאנו אדוני ממצרים מבית עבדים, ויהי כי הקשה פרעה לשלחנו, ויהרוג אדוני כל בכור בארץ מצרים, מבכור אדם ובכור בהמה. על כן אני זובח לאדוני כל פטר רחם הזכרים, וכל בכור בני אפתה, והיה הלאות על ידך ולטוטפות בין עיניך כי בחוזק יד הוציאנו אדוני ממצרים. And Moses said to the people, remember this day when you left Egypt and were free from slavery, for with a strong hand God brought you out of this. Today you are going out in the month of the Aviv. And so when God brings you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which he swore to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall perform the service of Pesach in this month. Matzot shall... For 7 days you shall eat matzot, and on the 7th day there shall be a festival for God. Throughout the 7 days you shall eat matzot, and no leavened stuff shall be found with you or on all of your property. And you shall tell your son on that day, I do this because of what God did for me when I went out of Egypt. And it shall be for a sign on your hand and a reminder between your eyes, and you shall speak of God's teachings, for with a strong hand God brought you out of Egypt. And you shall keep this custom at its fixed time, year after year. And so when God brings you to the land of the Canaanites, which he swore to give to your ancestors, he will give it to you. And every firstling your cattle drop shall belong to God, and every donkey firstborn, or any non-kosher animal, shall be redeemed with a lamb, and should you not redeem it, you shall kill it. And every firstborn of your sons you shall redeem. And when your son asks you on that day, why do we do this? You shall tell him that it was with the strength of hand that God brought us out of Egypt. And then it happened, when Pharaoh was being stubborn about letting the Israelites go, God killed every firstborn, from every firstborn of man to every firstborn of beast. And that is why I do sacrifice to the Eternal every firstborn of my cattle and every firstborn of my sons I shall redeem. And it shall be for a sign on your hand, and a reminder between your eyes that with the strength of hand God brought you out of Egypt. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yeshar koach, Jonah. Superb. You brought vividly to us the pages, the words of the book of Exodus, of the story of our ancestors. I can imagine that for all of us, a Seder table will not be the same again after what you brought. So I'm going to ask you to hop off while we all stand ready as Nick is going to raise the Torah scroll for us, and Jonah is going to try to point out the bits that he read from. So we need you back up here, Jonah, sorry. And just a word to Nick, this will make it easier. It's incredibly fragile because this is a Czech scroll, so keep it close together if there's any problem. It's just more fragile than most.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Stop.
That's your introduction. Yep, that's your one.
Introduction first.
My haftarah comes from the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah was active in Judah in the 6th and 7th centuries BCE and saw the first temple destroyed and the people go into exile to Babylon. But he also prophesied the destruction of Egypt, which is why this piece is chosen to complement the story of the slavery and exodus from Egypt. One day they will get their comeuppance. This prophecy and description of Egypt falling is very detailed and quite intense. They will stumble and fall. As a modern person, reading these descriptions is tricky. Jeremiah was quite a dramatic prophet, and his words are preserved really well because he had a secretary called Baruch.
No, keep it off.
Oh yeah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha b'neviim tovim ורצה בדבריכם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה, אדוני, הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. הדבר אשר דיבר אדוני אל ירמיהו הנביא לבוא נבוכדנצר מלך בבל להכות את ארץ מצרים. הגידו במצרים וישמיעו במגדול וישמיעו ונופו את תחפנהס. אמרו התייסף וככן לה כי אוכלה הרף סביבך. מדוע נסחף אבירך לא עמד כי אדוני הדפו. הרבה כושר גם נפל ישרהו. ואמרו קומה ונשובה אל עמנו ואל ארץ הולדתנו מפני הרף היונה. מדוע נסחף אבירך.
Yes.
היני נאום המלך אדוני צבאות שמו כי כתבו בחרים וכחמל בים יבוא. כלי גולה אסילה יושבת בת מצרים כי נוף נשמה תהיה ונסתמן יושב. עגלה יפהפייה מצרים קרב מצפון בבא. גם שכיריך וקרבה כעגלי מאבק. כי גם המה יפנו נסוע יחדיו לא עמדו. כי יום אדם בא אליהם את פקודתם. כל כנחש ילך כי בחיל ילכו ובקלדומות באו לה כהוטבי עצים. כרתו יערה נאום אדוני כי לא יחכה כי רבו מהרבה ואין להם מספר. הובישה בת מצרים ניתנה ביד צפון. ואתה אל תירא עבדי יעקב ואל תחת ישראל כי הנני מושיעך מרחוק ויצרך מארץ שבים ושב יעקב ושקט ושאנן ואין מחרית. אתה אל תירא Avdi Yaakov, name Adonai, ki echani, ki esechala bechol hagoyim, asher yidati chashama. Ve'ertecha lo esechala, v'yisaticha le'mishpat, v'nakel lo anakecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, su kol ha'olamim, sadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shechol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh she'ata natan lanu Adonai Eloheinu לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לה ומברכים אותה. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש את השבת.
I am going to ask us to stand up as we are going to rest the scroll in the ark as we go into the community prayers. So friends, we're going to go straight into our community prayers. Beloved friends and family have been invited to share our 3 community prayers. Or is it just one? Is it 3 community prayers? I'm going to ask you to come up one by one as Jonah steps back. So we're just going to have family opening the ark. We're going to keep standing as the ark is there. So if I can have the community prayer leaders up. So the first is prayer for the royal family.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing on our Sovereign Lady Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Amen.
May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rules soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and to do your will. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless this holy community with all holy communities. May the Holy One grant blessing and success in all the work of their hands, with all Israel, their brothers and sisters. And let us say, Amen.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with a faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all of its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. So while you are still standing, and please feel free to sit whenever one of you needs to, this is our moment to really mark as a congregation this family who joined us when they first came to see me. I realised that I had known Jonah. Why? Because he was the star of this singing group that my daughter had gone to. Not only was he so extraordinary, but parents mumbled about him in the back row. And this star-turned Jonah came to join our congregation. We roped him in. He sang for our Seder. He sang at various services. He joined Dean singing. And I cannot tell you how proud we are that you joined us as a congregation and you chose to share this incredibly poignant, important moment in your life. Jonah, as someone who I know appreciates sport a great deal, not only with your bar mitzvah teacher, John, who seems to draw that out in all his students, but in your own life as well. I think that there is a certain irony of 1966 and Jonah's bar mitzvah in 2021. We are very pleased that tomorrow 8 o'clock did not happen on Saturday afternoon of Jonah's bar mitzvah, because it might not have been just the pandemic that moved your date. I think of Bill Shanklin talking about football's not just a matter of life and death, but way more important. And I think, Jonah, you probably would have said that to me if your bar mitzvah had to compete. But truly, you have brought so much blessing and maturity to this bar mitzvah. As I know how your parents appreciate you in the way that you're into cooking, in the way you're into planning travels for them, in the way that you love your status as only child and loving your parents who you can make jokes with without offending you. I have no idea the extent of these jokes, but I certainly listen to Jonah. And Jonah, we as a community want you to continue with us, want you to continue in the Kabbalat Torah program, your sense of social justice, of commitment to what it means to be a Jew, to pass it on. I said last night that I've never heard a bar mitzvah student be so focused on when he may have children and pass on his Judaism. Obviously, we're not expecting your grown-upness to begin in that way, but we really want you to feel as fondly of this day as we do, as proud of yourself as we do, as a sense that your community is here to look after you in the same way that your parents are. I couldn't help, and I asked your mum yesterday, how into the tennis are you? Because I have this beautiful quote from Arthur Ashe, who was a wonderful tennis player, who wrote a letter to his daughter before he died, and these words: "By the time you read this letter from me, I may not be around to discuss with you what I've written. Do not feel sorry for me if I'm gone. When we were together, I loved you deeply. You gave me so much happiness." And then he says, wherever I am, wherever you are in your life, rather as your mother read, when you encounter challenges, when you stumble and fall, when you wonder whether you can get up and begin again, you have to think right back to what you achieved this afternoon for your bar mitzvah. And I think of Arthur Ashe saying to his daughter, Camera, if you don't know if you can't get up again, think of me. I will be watching and smiling and cheering you on. And truly that is how we feel in this congregation, Jonah, that your bar mitzvah will be caught up with Wimbledon, with Euros 2020, with all the fervour of us coming out of lockdown, and with all that hope of what it's going to mean. So I'm going to ask your family now to join you on the bima as we pass the Torah scroll from your mother to you, and I know that your father has a few words to say to you as well. So as I take the scroll out, Mike, maybe you want to stay there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You stand over here next
So,
to me so that we can see your faces.
Jonah, I just wanted to say how proud your mum and I are of you today as the bar mitzvah kid of N10. You're assured and confident, and that reflects all the hard work that you've put in today over many months. Your command of Hebrew has left us in awe, though at least my Russian will always be better than yours. Or it was. This journey started not months but years ago, from Havara in Crouch End when you were 7 to today when you stand before us as a proud Jewish young man. You have studied diligently, most of the time, not always. Sunday mornings for the past year and a half will be filled with the sound of you and John, your brilliant Bar Mitzvah teacher, conversing, frankly not always about Ivrish study, very often about football or politics, let's be honest. First of all, this was in person, then online as the pandemic hit. And your last session with John was in person, so what comes around goes around. You bore delay after delay of your Bar Mitzvah date with dignity, or was it resignation, and finally we are here. You talked about handing down traditions from generation to generation. Your mother's side of the family, on your grandfather's side, travelled from Ukraine at the turn of the century, bearing hardship, struggle, and even tragedy at sea. My side of the family left behind the poverty of Ireland and settled in Scotland. You inherit these rich traditions. It is, I think, what a poet called E. E. Cummings meant when he wrote "The root of the root and the bud of the bud." We hope they make you stronger as you journey through life. Well done again, son.
So now I'm going to ask you, Jonah, to stand here with your dad on this side. Dad, on this side.
Lost in the moment, that's fine.
And the symbolism of this Torah scroll that Jonah read from, I now pass to Danielle, who passes to her son, as we sing the blessing Shehechianu, reaching a moment for the first time. Maybe turn so the community get to see you. We've managed so well, we really don't want to drop the Torah scroll. So between you, you will hold it. So I am blessing Jonah on behalf of our congregation with all the pride and joy of this, our first Saturday afternoon Bar Mitzvah, of this post-pandemic, mid-pandemic Bar Mitzvah. Your father's right, you have showed such maturity and patience as we have gone through with all the changes that it has required. So I call upon Misha Berach, Avotenu Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yakov, ve'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, hu yavarech et Bar Mitzvah, Jonah ben Daniela v'Mikael, She'Allah la Torah. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel and Leah, bless Jonah, who having reached the age of Bar Mitzvah has come up to read from the Torah. May he continue to study our heritage, take its teachings to heart, join our Kabbalat Torah program, pass it on to future generations. We know you're keen to do that, so that you may be a source of pride to your family and friends and a worthy member of our community. And let us all say, Amen.
Simman Tov, Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov, Simman Tov, Simman Tov, Mazal Tov, Mazal Tov, Simman Tov, Elanu. Simman Tov, Mazal Tov, Simman Tov. Elanu, Elanu.
mazel tov to you as a family. Please, you can now, Jonah, as a fully adult, do you want to finish closing the ark? So we're going to go to finish our service immediately. So we're going to go. Please sit down. I'm going to call on our chair, Tamara, our fabulous chair of our congregation, who happens to know the family as well, to present to Jonah just over Kiddush. Now we finish the service with Adon Olam, a special Adon Olam, which you may recognize the tune, page 33.
Hashem alav b'terem kol yitzin nivra nasa v'chetzol kol azay melech shelo nikra v'yacharei kiglot hakol levado imlok nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad ve'im sheni laham shelo lahakbira ראשית בניתתי ולא העוץ והמזרח ולי וחי גואלי וצוקבי ביצרה והוא ניסי ומנוסי מנחוסי ביומק כי ביתי שן וירא עם רוחי וביאתי אדוני לי ולא ירא עולם השם עליו בטרם כל יציר נברא ואת נשא וחצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא
So I think we need Jonah as well as Tamara one last time, because Jonah is going to lead us in a Borei Pri Hagafen as well as a Hamotzi. Under your chairs, I believe you have a perfect Alice in Wonderland Kiddush. So I don't know how you've worked it out. It looks like some people have got whiskey and some people haven't.
It's sherry, actually.
A sherry, even better. Some of you have got sherry. So I'm going to ask you, Jonah. Over here tomorrow. Oh, I think just Borei Pri Hagafen. So as you take your top off your bottle of sherry or what's everyone else got if you haven't got sherry?
Grape juice.
Grape juice or sherry, so you can do your swaps now. Dean is going to lead us in Borei Pri Hagafen. Joan is going to lead us in a Hamotzi, and then I pass to our chair tomorrow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Pri Hagafen Amen. L'chaim.
Just lift it up and just say Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So while you're nibbling what you have, over to Tamara.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and on behalf of the community, welcome to Finchley Progressive Synagogue, to a huge, very hearty mazel tov to the whole of the Brandon Rocks family, to Jonah, to Mike, to Danielle. Wonderful that we're able to have you all celebrating together in the building today. I mean, I know it's been such a long-awaited occasion, and people have spoken about your patience, your commitment, but how wonderful that you're all actually able to be here. Not just our first afternoon service, not a bar mitzvah service, not just the first Rocks family bar mitzvah, but you've given us cause to hope the first of many, Jonah, in what you said today. So, Jonah, I had the very good fortune last year to spend a week on holiday with you, so I know all about how eloquent you are, how thoughtful, how mature, how engaged. And we've also, as Rabbi Rebecca said, had the wonderful opportunity so often to have our services beautified by your singing. So expectations were high, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's fair to say, and how fantastic you are, how well justified they were. So it gives me great pleasure on the behalf of the community to present you with this certificate. Here it is. It says on it, Hilacha tov natati lachem Torah el ta'azvu, which means I've given you a good thing, do not forsake it. It has your name here, and it says that Jonah, Elias, Brandon Rocks was called to the Torah in the presence of our community to become Bar Mitzvah on the 10th of July 2021, and the name of your parasha, Parashat Bo. So congratulations, thank you for all the pride that you've brought to us as a community. I hope you now get to relax and celebrate and have a wonderful time. So thank you, everybody. I should say you will also receive from us a £50 contribution towards your Israel tour when you're 16. So stay with us, and that's waiting for you when you get to go on Israel tour. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
So Mike is going to say something that... Are you doing it now? Fine. Even better. Even better. So we wish you Shabbat Shalom. We do have Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov. We are really trying to keep to COVID-safe rules. So we do ask you now to just make your way out. On the street, you can embrace. I know you're all going back home, but if you could just make your way out of the building, drop off your books on the table on your way out, and take with you your Kiddush stuff, and a huge Mazal Tov to the family.
And you can keep the Torah scroll.
Please take, that was Josie who created the Torah scrolls. Please take the Dr. Zeus piece that Danielle chose so beautifully, and Jonah's special Bar Mitzvah Torah scroll. Shabbat Shalom and Mazal Tov.
Mazal Tov.